everyone. Today's topic for collaborative learning activities, Leaford Fracture 2. The learning objectives for this seminar is to know the basics of the Leaford 2 fracture, how the fracture line runs, the signs and symptoms, investigations and management. The question usually asked is describe a Leaford 2 fracture line, give clinical features and management of Leaford 2 fracture. Now introduction. It is also called as subzygomatic fracture or pyramidal fracture. The pyramidal shape is usually when both the maxilla are involved. This shape occurs when violent forces from the anterior direction are sustained by the central region of the facial skeleton over an area extending from glabella to alveolar margin. The force may be at the level of nasal bones. Fracture line. The fracture line runs in two directions, anteriorly and posteromedially. Anteriorly, it starts from thin middle area of nasal bones or the frontonasal junction, crossing the frontonasal processes of maxilla into the medial wall of each orbit. It crosses further to the lacrimal bone behind the lacrimal sac. From there, it turns forwards to lacrimal margin, slightly medial to or through the infraorbital foramen, extends downwards and backwards across the lateral wall of antrum below zygomatic suture, separating the middle one third of pterygoid lamina horizontally. Posteromedially, it separates the block from the base of skull via nasal septum and may involve the floor of anterior cranial fossa. Now, signs and symptoms. Uh, Usually, edema over nasal bridge, epistaxis, bilateral circumorbital edema, and tenderness is present due to the fracture of nasal bone. Moon faces can be seen due to the gross edema of middle third of the face. Subcutaneous emphysema due to the communication between sinus cavities and soft tissues of the face can be seen. Subconjunctival hemorrhage. This hemorrhage is usually present in the medial side of the eye. Epistaxis, which is nose bleeding, can further lead to airway obstruction. Raccoon eyes is the peculiar appearance of this fracture, which is due to bilateral circumorbital edema and ecchymosis. Epiphora, which is the overflow of tears from the face due to inability of lacrimal fluid to drain through nasolacrimal duct. Telecanthus, it is the increase in the inner canthi of the eye. It can be either pseudo-telecanthus or true telecanthus. Pseudo-telecanthus is an illusion created due to the swelling over nasal bridge, whereas true telecanthus is seen usually in nasoorbital ethmoid fracture. Chemosis, which is the edema of conjunctiva. CSF rhinorrhea due to the fracture of cribriform plate of the ethmoid. In this CSF leak is seen. Diplopia, which is the double vision. In ophthalmos, it is the posterior displacement of eyeball due to changes in the volume of orbit. Anesthesia or paresthesia of cheek can be seen due to which suggests the injury of infraorbital nerve, step deformity at the infraorbital rims, ecchymosis in the buccal sulcus opposite to first and second molars, midline or pyramidal split of the palate, lengthening of the face due to separation of middle third from the skull bone, repositioning of maxilla and gagging of occlusion, which creates an anterior open bite. Class 3 malocclusion, which results in dish face deformity. And mobility is evident in maxillary teeth, frontonasal junction, and infraorbital rim. Investigations. Radiographically, in the PNS view, haziness due to bleeding is seen in the sinus. and step deformity at the infraorbital rims can be seen. McGregor and Campbell lines. These lines were introduced by McGregor and Campbell in 1950. By studying these lines, it reduces the chances of failing to detect the fracture. These lines are first line runs from zygomatico-frontal suture crossing the superior margin of orbital and frontal sinus. Second line across the zygomatic arch, zygomatic body, inferior orbital margin and nasal bone. Third line across the condyles, coronoid process and maxillary sinus. Fourth line across the mandibular ramus and occlusal plane. Fifth line, which is also the Trampnell's line, across the inferior border of mandible from angle to angle. CT scan can also be used to determine the extent of maxillofacial injuries, and 3D reconstruction of CT scan aids in diagnosis and treatment planning. Uh, these, this is the photo of Campbell and McGregor and Campbell lines. Management. The basic principles for management are airway maintenance, reduction, fixation, immobilization, and aesthetics. This is for reestablishment of form, function, and occlusion with minimum morbidity. Time of surgery. It can be either immediate or it can be delayed. Immediately in a stable patient, and delayed to if the surgeon wants to allow the edema to subside, providing manipulation of bones and soft tissues. However, if it is more delayed than the 2 weeks, there can be risk of fibrosis and healing process. Aims of the treatment include restoration and preservation of functions and of vital structures, re-establishing dental occlusion, ocular position, ocular mobility, and orbital volume. IMF or MMF is done to restore dental occlusion prior to surgery to protect the masticatory function. Problems associated with these treatment are airway maintenance, complexity of fracture and fixation. Airway maintenance, because most of the time the treatment involves general anesthesia, which can be administered through nasal intubation, submental or tracheostomy. Complexity of fractures, because these fractures do not uh, often occur as a fracture of single block of bone. Usually there is a presence of complex of Lefort 1, Lefort 2, and Lefort 3 types of fracture, the treatment of which is extremely complicated. Fixation. Fixation requires an immobile point for support. As the lower jaw is movable, it is not possible to fix the fractured maxilla to the mandible. Reduction. Reduction is the restoration of fractured fragments to their original anatomical position. It can be done by two methods, closed reduction and open reduction. Closed reduction is without visualization, and open reduction involves surgical approach. Methods for closed reduction are by manual method, in which the fractured maxilla can be manipulated by hand within 3 to 4 days. It should be done in such a way so as to disimpact the maxilla and move it forwards. Second, by means of wire. It is usually indicated when the maxilla is not very mobile. In this, the wires can be twisted around the periodontally sound maxillary molars bilaterally. Third, by means of maxillary disimpaction forceps. The forceps used are Rowe's disimpaction forceps, Hayton-Williams forceps, Ash or Walsham's forceps. The disimpaction carried out is same as that of Lefort 1 fracture. One pair of Rowe's disimpaction forceps is used. The unpadded blade is passed through the nostril, and the padded blade is into the mouth, and the palate is grasped in tightly. The operator should stand behind the patient, grasp the two forceps, and manipulate to disimpact the maxilla and bring it to place. A rocking motion is used in this procedure.